What if people in the US and Canada used a completely different language than the people in Britain and Australia, but the same language as people in Bolivia? In fact, this is reality in the world of sign language. Welcome to The Ways of the World, a conversation about world language and culture. And this week we're talking about sign languages around the world, the geography of them, the way the world is divided up among the different languages. It's a very different situation than what it is with spoken language. So, for example, as just mentioned, the UK, Australia, New Zealand use one sign language. Well, they each have their own national dialect. So Britain uses BSL or British Sign Language. Australia's is called Auslan, and New Zealand has NZSL. But it's all pretty much the same. But this language, this British Sign Language, is completely different from American Sign Language or ASL. It's as different as spoken English is from Japanese or Swahili. So instead, ASL actually is closely related to and really descended from French Sign Language. And there's a story behind this. So if you look at many of the sign languages of the world, a lot of them, maybe close to half, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but really a lot of them are descended from French Sign Language, or more specifically from Old French Sign, which was the sign language used in Paris in the 1700s. Around that time, a clergyman named Charles Michel de l'Épée started a school for the deaf, which became a major force in developing French signing. So at this same time, over in Scotland, there was a teacher named Thomas Braidwood, and he codified the first version of BSL, of British Sign Language. And one of the teachers at his school started a new BSL school in London, and this kind of cemented it as the country's national sign language. So a few decades later comes Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet, who would become the father of sign language education in America. And he went over to England, and the story goes that the Braidwood schools just refused to teach him BSL. So he went over to Paris and learned French Sign Language instead, and this is what he took back to the US, where he founded the American School for the Deaf. His sign language, ASL, also incorporated some signs from existing local sign languages. For example, there was a very famous one used in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, by the deaf community there. So the British and French sign languages are very, very different. Maybe the first and most obvious difference is with the spelling. Spelling is a really big deal in sign languages. Letter shapes are used in a lot of signs. And so with the French and American signing alphabet, all of the letters are done with one hand, while in the BSL, the letters are signed with both hands. And so the French one was definitely more influential. You have a lot of sign languages descended from it that use more or less the same one-handed finger spelling and some of the same vocabulary. You have Russian Sign Language, Irish Sign Language. Mexico has Lengua de Señas Mexicana, or LSM, which is totally different from Spanish Sign Language. So likewise in Brazil, they have their sign language, Libras, and even though Brazil and Portugal both speak Portuguese, the sign languages are totally different. Portuguese Sign Language comes from, randomly, Swedish Sign Language. Sweden came up with its own sign language in the early 1800s, has different finger spelling alphabet, though it's also one-handed, and it's the parent of Finnish Sign Language. And then Denmark and Norway don't use the Swedish one. They have a shared sign language of their own, which is unlike with spoken languages. With spoken languages, Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian speakers can all pretty much understand each other. So then, American Sign Language has a whole family of its own. And a lot of this involved ASL teachers going abroad and setting up schools for the deaf, like Andrew Foster, an American missionary who taught ASL across Africa. This one man is the reason that most African sign languages are based on ASL. A notable exception is in Madagascar, where they use Malagasy Sign Language, which comes from Norwegian Sign Language. But anyway, some of the languages in the ASL family are very close to ASL, like Bolivian and Costa Rican Sign Language. And then you have others that have drifted farther away and are, definitely their own language. Like Malaysian and Indonesian Sign Languages, or Moroccan Sign Language, or Thai Sign Language. Those were seeded by ASL being taught in those places, but now they're as different from ASL as English might be from Spanish. And then you have German Sign Language and Austrian Sign Language. Now, they're said to be pretty different from each other. One thing, though, that these two different languages, German and Austrian Sign, do have in common, they both use a sign for the letters SCH together because both countries speak German, and that combo comes up a lot. So anyway, each has its own family. Austrian Sign Language influenced Hungarian Sign Language, and German is said to be the parent of Polish Sign and Israeli Sign Language, which was because Europe's main Jewish school for the deaf was in Germany. Now, as far as the Arabic speaking world goes, you really have one major sign language and a bunch of little ones. So the big one is sometimes known as Levantine Sign Language, and it's used by Lebanese, Syrians, Palestinians, and Jordanians. And it's said to be kind of close to the sign languages in Egypt and Iraq. But the rest of the Arabic speaking world has a patchwork of different sign languages, although there are efforts underway to unite them into a single language. But from what I've been reading, it's still far, a long way to go. So let's check out one more region. If you look at Northeast Asia, so with the spoken languages, of course, you would have Japanese, Korean in the Koreas, and Mandarin Chinese, among other Chinese languages, in mainland China and in Taiwan. But if you switch to the sign language view, you can see Japan, Taiwan, and the Koreas are all in the Japanese language family, with the languages pretty similar, because all those places were Japanese colonies during the early 20th century when sign language education really took off. And I'm told that with Chinese Sign Language, there's two very different dialects, like a northern one and a southern one. And then Hong Kong Sign Language is said to have pretty much broken off into its own separate language. Now, is there a sort of international sign language, the way a lot of people use English when they're traveling? And I'm told that ASL is sort of like this, or at least it's the most commonly learned second sign language for people is American Sign Language. Maybe I think there's a good amount of movies and other media in ASL, so it might bring people in. Now, if you know a sign language, and especially if you know more than one, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And meantime, thank you again for watching this and for making the world your thing. And if you like the video, please click like. Always appreciated, and even more so if you subscribe. And see you next week.